welcome to another in our series of QPR Fans, Our Stories. Those of us in the Hoops and Dreams forum want to hear from different fans about themselves and their QPR past. By asking each fan the same sort of questions, we're hoping to get different but interesting responses. It is a chance to ask fans about themselves, their memories, and the players or managers that have meant the most to them. So onto this podcast guests. God, that's difficult to say. So onto this podcast guests of the moment, and it's a warm welcome to Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hi there.
Okay, so let's go on to the first question, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. How long have you supported the R's and why?
Okay, 62 years.
Whoa.
And counting.
Yeah.
It's a long story. You may guys on the forum may remember me as Minxie Martin. Yeah, my name's Martin Fitzgerald. I was born and raised in West London, and my dad and I used to go off to see Brentford, which was from Feltham, was the closest, but it was third division south, and we used to catch the train from Feltham, and there was a football special, which meant that it went on the Hounslow Loop, which is now a service, but in those days was a special service. So we used to go along to Brentford in the third division south, and then all that changed when we moved to West Ealing. So we started going to first division matches. Fulham.
Oh, not getting any better.
At Craven Cottage. And of course, guess who were playing at that time? Johnny Hills, centre forward. Johnny Haynes, the most amazing number 10. And of course, at that time, English captain. Anyway, in the summer of 61, I just finished off my O-levels, and I thought, well, I'd better make a little bit of money, because my parents, of course, hadn't got a lot of money in those days. So I went to work at the Callard and Bowser's sweet factory, which was quite an eye-opener for a 15-year-old, I can tell you. My wage packet was £5 a week, because the union was very good and they wouldn't allow the company to undercut workers. And that's where I first encountered QPR. The fans started chatting about QPR and so on. And whilst at school, my mate Colin was an avid Crystal Palace supporter, fan. He still is to this day. And at that time, Palace had just won the fourth division by a mile, with crowds of over 40,000 people from the fourth division. Anyway, so he encouraged me to go along to Selhurst Park. I think it was in September 61. And we happened to be, Palace happened to be playing QPR in a third division game. I think we drew 1-1, something like that. So that was quite, I didn't know QPR from Adam, at that time. And indeed, the next week, QPR were playing Crystal Palace at home in the League Cup. And we beat them 6-2, which is amazing. Anyway, I didn't go to that game because it's midweek, and I was at school at the time. When the return match came to Loftus Road, we went along and got tickets onto the South Africa Road terrace. I don't know whether you know, but in the early 60s, well, certainly at 61, the only covered stands were Ellerslie Road, the old stand in Ellerslie Road, and of course the loft. The South Africa Road terrace and the school end were all open, just terracing. I think they'd concreted them by that time, but although I have in the back of my mind that it might have been dirt, but I can't be absolutely sure. Anyway, I've got the programme of the, I don't know whether you can see it.
Yeah, good grief.
Yeah. And it was Saturday, 20th of January, 1962. Kickoff, 3:15 p.m. League Division 3.
Yeah, good.
That was my first match because, of course, I became a QPR supporter. I'd come along down the Uxbridge Road from West Ealing. Yeah.
Let me go on to question 2. Do you? Yeah. I know the answer to this, but they don't. Did you live far from West 12? You said that you originally lived close by in Feltham and then up towards Ealing. But now where do you live?
Now what we're doing is renting places in the south of France.
Smart move.
Going round from place to place and not having to worry about the children looking at the money they'd make if I died, etc., etc. We're just spending it. So that's where I am, south of France, on QPR Plus, watching every match, every week, midweek.
It's a good thing to do, right? Yeah. Do you have a favourite QPR strip?
Well, it's pretty obvious, actually, isn't it? Having worked on Western Avenue, right next to a certain Guinness brewery, distillery. It's the Guinness Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
Away strip.
Good choice.
And similarly, the KLM home strip.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Very 80s. So
that really gives my age away.
All right, on to the next question. If you manage to get to Loftus Road from the south of France, where do you normally sit for matches?
Right. When I had a season ticket, it was V for Victor, row H, 108, on the halfway line.
All right.
Perfect position. Whenever I've had a season ticket, it's always been in the Ellerslie Road stand, which is now Stan Bowles stand. Well, actually, it's really strange this, because the Ellerslie Road stand was built at the end of 1972. It cost about £170,000. Curiously enough, in March 1972, we sold a certain Rodney Marsh for £200,000. So I've always called it the Rodney Marsh stand. Anyway, where do I normally sit? Well, for my brother's first match in 1966, we were standing at the school end in the pouring rain, because of course there was no cover at that time. And when I was lucky enough to see Georgie Best's last match for Manchester United, 1st of January 1974, I was standing in what's now the paddock, I suppose. They'd built South Africa Road stand in 1968, but they still left the paddock. So I was right up against the pitch, and George Best came up, took the ball from me and threw in. We we beat them 3-0, and actually they went down that season to the second division. But there we go. So that's my little story about where do I normally sit. My grandsons, Connor, Kieran and Lewis, I always took to the family stand. Unfortunately, they're Oxford United supporters. Their dad is, yeah. And my great-grandsons, Logan and Taylor, have been in the family stand and the school end, kids for £1 or something. Yeah. And then my great-grandson Archie's first match was the Rotherham home match this season.
Oh, that was a good one.
And it was his special day. It was his birthday on the 29th of February. So only gets it every 4 years. Anyway, and we went for the QPR tour in the morning. And that is, I recommend that to any of you. I really, really do.
Okay, that's good.
A real treat, brought back such fabulous memories. They came flooding back. And Archie got to do high five with the first team players, specially arranged by the club.
Oh, how
and
lovely.
I got to shake the hand of Andy Sinton, who, of course, I hear every match on QPR Plus when I'm in France.
Yeah, he's a great ambassador. Great ambassador.
So,
Martin, do you have any favourite QPR players over all the time you've been watching? Ever since you've been following them.
Of course, over 62 years. Well,
Must have a few.
the Morgan twins, Dave Thomas, Rodney Marsh, Stan Bowles, Alan MacDonald, Andy Sinton, Lee Cook. I especially remember because of what he did for the club.
Yeah.
Adel Tarabt, the Moroccan magician, Alessandro Forlin.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
And Paddy Kenny. And I tell you why, Paddy, because he kept 25 clean sheets for the 2010-2011 season when we won the championship.
Pretty good.
Now, some that you may not have thought of. Glenn Roeder, he of the Shuffle, captain of our 1982 Cup final. In fact, he's the one that I would pick out as my number one player. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and why that? Why Glenn?
Well, he of the Shuffle, and of course he was a very good captain.
Yeah, he was
a very good captain. Very unlucky that he got a yellow card in the first final and couldn't play in the replay. I think if he'd played in the replay, we'd have won. But anyway, and of course, I've got 3 special ones: Clint Hill and Sean Derry, who literally put their bodies on the line. Jamie Mackie.
Same thing, really.
With his last second goals. Do you remember that Derby 2-2 draw in August 2010? That, going from 2-0 down with seconds to go to drawing, it was as if we'd won. And we were on a roll at the time, at the beginning of the season, but it was the springboard for the championship that year. It was amazing. And of course, his last minute in that wonderful match, luckily I was there, the Liverpool match in March 2012, 2-0 down, 20 minutes to go. And Jamie got the 3rd goal. So those are my players.
All right. Another question for you then. Do you manage to get to any pre-season matches? I know you're in the south of France, but or do you get to any away?
Well, I live in the south of France, but by a stroke of good luck, this season, I took my great-grandsons to the Leicester City away match.
Okay. That was lucky.
Standing and singing with the Loft boys. They made some noise.
Yeah, that's a good match to take them to, actually. Very good one.
Very lucky.
Okay, excluding the playoff final, because I've got to keep that one out of it. What's the best game that you can remember?
The 1982 FA Cup final.
Yeah,
mainly because my brother Mike Fitzgerald was one of the ones holding up that banner which said Flanagan and Allen. You'll have to look at the replays.
Look at that now, because I don't remember.
Prominent.
But that's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah.
I think we're great for puns. So who is your favourite manager and why?
Right, Alex Stock. I'm going to read from The Guardian. So I'll try and be quick. Right. Alex's nickname was the first gentleman of soccer. He was a very nice man and a gentleman in every way. Jim Gregory, chairman from 1965 onwards, was precisely the opposite. He was a terribly impatient man and wanted success immediately. Fortunately, Jim got it. The season ended with the club third, 8 points from promotion. Towards the end of it, he funded the signing of Rodney Marsh from Fulham for £15,000. In fact, Alec took a lot of guys from Fulham, Fulham research, yeah. Anyway, so Marsh, a brilliant young forward, scored 44 times in all the following season, which ended with QPR winning the third division title by 13 points, and this in the days of 2 points for a win. QPR also reached the League Cup final, which for the first time that year was played at Wembley, and came back from a 2-0 half-time deficit against First Division West Bromwich Albion to become the first third-tier side to win there. Winning back-to-back promotions to storm into the top flight is a rare feat today, but back then it simply was not done. Only one team had achieved it before, and that was more than 30 years earlier. QPR won 5 of their first 6 games and were never out of the top 2. So back-to-back promotions for Alex Stock. He was Jim Gregory. Many years later, rued the fact that he sacked Alec.
I know.
When we went up to the First Division. Very sad.
Yeah, it was.
So that's Alec.
Right, thank you for that. And can you remember where you were on the 25th of May 2014 when we just happened to have a certain Bobby Zamora scoring the winning goal at the Wembley playoff final?
Well, Northwest will know. Wembley, of course, in the second tier. Yeah. I purchased tickets for our QPR forum guys because I was an international member. And Northwest and I met up with his dad and a whole load of others. He was amazed that I brought my French friend Yves over to support. Yves, his son, was a Paris Saint-Germain supporter, and Yves texted him from Wembley, so excited that he was, at Wembley. And then when, of course, we scored, that was, well, incredible.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Bringing it slightly up to date, this season, do you know where you were when we had Leeds? We beat them 4-0. And
watching, of course, it was after the Leicester game, a few weeks later. So I was over in France, but I was watching on QPR Plus. In fact, I think the whole of France knew that I was watching. I tend to get excited and sort of run out the front door, jumping up and down, and the French think I'm an absolute idiot.
Right, I want to try and get all this in if I can.
Sorry.
Thinking of the years that you've been watching the R's, is there any player that you would like to name who's really disappointed you in terms of their performance against the hype that was given before they arrived, or perhaps their unavailability to stay fit, or the inability to stay fit, I should say? Is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yes. Anton Ferdinand. That's all I want to say on this subject. If you know, you know.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You've already told me that you've got grandchildren who are watching Oxford, which is a bit of a shame for them next season. And you also have obviously your brother. You mentioned Mike and whatever. Are there any others in your family that are supporting?
Well, my great grandsons.
Great. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's...
Logan's 15, Taylor's 12, and Archie went to his first match. He's 8.
That's good.
So they're carrying on the Fitzgerald,
the family tradition.
although they're not called Fitzgerald now.
Well, I'm glad they're doing that. Finally, thinking about more about the present and the future, what do you think of Martin Cifuentes, and where do you expect the R's to finish next season?
So the hardest question of all. Well, you know me on the forum.
You're going to go be optimistic.
I'm the perpetual optimist. Will Marty surpass Alex Stock or Dave Sexton or Neil Warnock?
Terry Venables, yeah.
Well, yes, I tend not to, because he did dump us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there when I found out, and I tell you, I've never seen so many tears in the stand anyway. But Marty is the future of the club.
Yeah.
Sitting here today, I feel the same as I did when Neil came in March 2010. And he kept us up that year.
Yeah.
What happened the year after?
Mm-hmm.
QPR won the championship.
That's a good analogy, that one. Mm.
We will win the silverware next season. Oh. You've heard it here first.
Thank God you didn't say the FA Cup. Okay. That brings us to the end of the questions, and really great thanks to our episode's guest, which is Martin. I hope you enjoyed this.
I did.
I also hope that all of you at home enjoyed hearing about somebody else's QPR past and their present. And if you think you have some good answers too, get in touch. We're looking to repeat this fan interaction during the next close season. So, thank you very much all of you for watching. This is Brian Fisher saying goodbye.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.